And it's really interesting to see that. There you go on the guy, boobs and bellies, more so than the women, boobs and bellies. Now that's a female. I threw her in just for comparison. Now this guy, look at this guy. This guy took this picture in a museum in Berlin. Look at this guy's belly and boobs. I mean, he's proud of them. He's got them stuck out there. That may have been a status symbol. It may have meant you got a lot more wheat than anybody else. But it's incredible that's what the ancient Egyptians looked like. And they all had the same, when you see the statue, they've all got bellies and they've all got breasts, all the men do. Now, the paleopathology is basically the study of ancient remains pathologically. And strangely enough, this picture was taken back in the 19th century. And if you had lived in the 1800s and gone to Egypt, you could have purchased a mummy. They had them for sale out on the street. And a lot of people did buy them and bring them home. I always wonder how many people have a mummy in their attic that they don't know about, that is in a box somewhere, because there were thousands and thousands and thousands of these sold. And it's estimated that there are as many mummies as there are people living alive in Egypt today because of so many years of mummification. And they use these to make paper. They used them for all kinds of stuff. But and they were everywhere. And this guy, Sir Mark Armand Rufer, who was an Englishman with a French name, was an English pathologist and microbiologist. And he happened to be in Cairo at the time. This was pre-World War I. Unfortunately, he was killed during World War I. A short ship he was coming back on got torpedoed. But he did autopsies, really the first autopsies on mummies, and what he saw stunned him because they had heart disease. And he actually drew the pictures. They didn't have, microphotographs then, so you had to draw it. So I guess you had to be an artist too if you were a pathologist. But he had one eye on the microscope and one eye on the paper, I guess, and draw these things. Pretty good drawings showing heart disease in mummies. And he autopsied a lot of mummies and found the same thing. It was pretty pervasive. And he says, I cannot, therefore, at present give any reason why arterial disease should have been so prevalent in ancient Egypt. I think, however, it's interesting to find that it was common, and that 3,000 years ago it presented the same anatomical characteristics as it does now. And he thought that heart disease was caused by stress, and he thought, well, they probably lived an unstressed life, so why would they have had heart disease? And here's the Ebers Papyrus, a famous Egyptian medical document that says, it's from 1550 BC, that says, if thou examinest a man for illness in his cardia, and he has pains in his arms and his breast, and in one side of his cardia, it is death threatening him. I mean, that could be right out of Harrison's textbook of medicine today. Obviously, the Egyptians were no strangers to heart attacks. Here's a picture that's difficult to see. I try to reproduce it as best I can, but it's supposedly from a paper in 1959, the earliest record of sudden death, probably due to heart disease. And on the top, you can see the people trying to comfort the wife, and down below, you see the guy all laid out. And whether that's that or not, I don't know. But that's an engraving, an Egyptian engraving, so maybe it was a common occurrence. Now, this is Hatshepsut, who was a famous Egyptian ruler queen back in 1500 BC, and she had just been identified relatively recently within the last few years because they had a missing tooth that they know was hers, and they had a mummy that they thought was hers, and the tooth fit it perfectly, so they put it all together. So it was much in the news a few years ago. But Hatshepsut ended up she was in a pretty bad way when she died. She had severe dental disease. You can see how her teeth are ground down. That's a common finding. You can see abscesses, you can see cavities. When they unearthed her mummy, she had rolls of fat all under there, so she was obese. She probably had diabetes. She had bone cancer, which was really rare in antiquity, which probably killed her.